All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. We had a marathon of Olympic basketball today, 4 quarterfinal games. We're going to be hitting all 4 of them, starting with USA, Brazil, then getting into France upsetting Canada, Serbia coming back from down 24 to beat the Australian national team. And then at the very end, Germany, after falling down by 5 in the mid-third quarter, comes back to win comfortably against Greece. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Don't forget it's helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. And last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the rest of the summer. Also, yesterday, I actually recorded the first video in our player ranking series. Now, those aren't going to release until I go out of town. I'm leaving on Thursday to go to Vegas to see 2 more Dead & Company shows at the Sphere. I'm very excited to see John Mayer play with 3 fingers. He slammed his index finger in his left hand in a door. So that's going to be I was joking about this with my wife, because it's such a low hazard industry, you don't really get to see musicians play hampered the way you do with athletes because they can get injured. But I've seen some of the early stuff from him last week playing with just 3 fingers. Any of you guys who have played guitar know that this is vitally important. It's probably the most important finger on that hand when it comes to playing. And so I'm super excited just to see John play some injured guitar at the Sphere later on this week. My wife and I are seeing 2 shows, and then we're coming home, and then we're turning right back around and going out of town to the Pacific Northwest for about a week, and we got a bunch of different places that we're hitting up there. I'm going to hit a few national parks. We're going to spend some time at Lake Chelan as well. I'm super excited to just get out of this Tucson heat and take a little bit of a break and then come back for the grind as we head into the next regular season. But while I'm gone, we're going to be airing the beginning part of our Top 25 Players series, and I recorded that first video yesterday, and first of all, it's just going to be so difficult. It's insane how many talented players there are in the league. Just try to rank a top 25. It's not easy. It's a super stressful process, but I'm really, really excited to get into that with you guys starting next week. But this week, just Olympic basketball. Quarterfinals today, semifinals on Thursday, and then the gold medal game on Saturday for us here at Hoops Tonight. Might try to cram in a mailbag there at the tail end of the week too. We'll see. So keep those questions in the YouTube comments. So USA, Brazil. Just an ass kicking, to be honest. Brazil doesn't have the talent to hang with Team USA. Their primary perimeter initiator is Marcelino Huertas, who's been around for a very long time, and they just ran a super deep drop coverage on him, and he couldn't get his pull-up mid-range jump shot going with enough efficiency for it to matter. They took 37 threes to try to win the math game, but they only made 12 of them. Team USA forced them into 15 turnovers. They blocked 7 of their shots. Team USA's defense has been consistently stifling from the beginning of the exhibition games. The offense has been a little bit more of an adventure, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but they've been really good. They've been allowing just 0.81 points per half-court possession so far in the Olympics. That is by far the best mark out of any of the Olympic teams. The Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert front line for France, that team is in second place in half-court defense, allowing 0.87 points per possession. So a pretty substantial gap there between basically 10% between Team USA and between Team USA and France. So that's how dominant their defense has been. And they're allowing just 0.83 points per half-court possession, even including all 5 exhibition games. And that includes that South Sudan game where they did not have a very good defensive night. So Team USA has been consistently great defensively. They're active on the ball. They're getting deflections. They're getting good perimeter defense performance, even from guys like Devin Booker and Steph Curry, who in their careers are not necessarily known as being stifling perimeter guys. They're super active on the back line. They're just playing really, really hard on that end of the floor, and the results have been really good. But the exciting part is they're starting to get it going on offense. They were already playing really well. They were scoring 0.96 points per half-court possession in the exhibitions, which is good. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly not good enough considering the amount of talent that is on this roster. But they are scoring a ridiculous 1.14 points per half-court possession so far through 4 games at the Olympics. And this is to be expected. There's something fundamentally different about playing basketball in this setting. I mean, especially when it comes to aggression and confidence. Like, take Joel Embiid for example. He's been struggling with this a lot. But like when you're on your NBA team and there's this clear hierarchy and it's like, I'm going to get my touches and it's okay if I miss 2 or 3 shots in the opening minutes. Like how many times has a Devin Booker or a Steph Curry or like a pull-up shooting guard like started the first quarter going 1 for 5 and it just doesn't matter because they can play themselves into rhythm and start getting going there in that second quarter shift when they come back in, and maybe they're in good rhythm by the end of the game and they finish the game, 9 for 20 or something like that and still have a solid night despite starting poor from the field. And it's just a little different in a setting like this. You go out and you miss your first one or miss your second one and all of a sudden you're like, should I even be shooting? Like, I'm not really feeling it right now. And I've got all these other super talented guys on the team. Then you start to second guess yourself and the aggression kind of goes away. And what ends up happening is, especially in the early phases, guys just kind of like don't want to pull on the rope too hard because they don't want to kind of disrupt the flow of the rest of the team. And you're starting to actually see everybody kind of find their role. Like Devin Booker, for instance, has been the guy who's been really gunning from the three-point line with that starting group, hit a couple of really tough contested threes on the perimeter. And again, remember, in FIBA ball, because of the defensive 3-second rule, or the lack of one there, I should say, because of that, you need guys that are confident stepping up and shooting shots from the perimeter. And every team is putting their best lock and trail guy on Steph and just chasing him around like crazy, and Steph's not getting open very much. And so Devin Booker's getting better looks, and he's capitalizing on it. He's leaning into what this team needs him to be, which is an aggressive three-point shooter. Joel Embiid, I thought that was kind of an interesting use of him today. Like, he's still struggling with those like face-up, jab step, jumpers from the mid-range, in large part because he's not getting the same calls that he gets in the NBA when he kind of sticks those arms out, which is good in my opinion, and players are pressing up on him more and getting good contests. But you know where he is getting great looks? From the three-point line, and he was much more aggressive from the three-point line today, both in catches at the top of the key during their 5-out sets, but also in transition, just running his lane and trailing the play and catching at the top of the key. That's a value add for him with this team. That's the one thing he can do that Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo can't do at a high rate, which is hit above the break threes. And so he's leaning into that, right? Like LeBron James early in the tournament, struggling a little bit with turnovers, right? To be expected, playing basically point guard for a team of a bunch of guys that are coming together for the first time, right? Well, only 5 total turnovers in the last 2 games. So he's cut way back on his turnovers. He had 9 assists today. So like you could tell LeBron is starting to kind of figure out how to run that starting unit. Anthony Edwards, we talked a lot in the exhibition games about how I like him coming off the bench so he can just be super aggressive and not necessarily have to stress about pulling on the rope against Steph and LeBron. He can be in that bench unit and just look to gun. It's like Bam and AD switching every screen, stifling everything, getting a ton of stops, and then it's KD and Ant being really aggressive with their over-the-top shooting, while Derek White runs around in circles and gets offensive rebound putbacks and just continues to make dirty work plays that help his team win. But it's all just coming together, and they're starting to play a really pretty brand of basketball. Again, like their offense is up substantially from where it was in the exhibitions. Their defense is even more stifling than it was in the exhibitions, even though it was always good, and they're just playing at a really high level. Now, Serbia, for the semifinal game, has consistently played Team USA well. And with Jokic on the floor in particular, they've been pretty competitive. And so my guess is that they're going to ramp Jokic's minutes up to as close to 40 as they feel comfortable. They might give him a little bit of a rest in the first half, but don't be surprised if he plays the entire second half. And that's going to be a challenge for Team USA. Now, Germany too. I think Germany's going to beat France, but that's a close game that could go either way. So it's possible that Team USA could have a couple of tougher games here in the semifinal in the championship. They'll be heavy favorites. They're 17.5-point favorites against Serbia on Thursday, but I'll be impressed if they dominate both games because I think Serbia and Germany are both good. They're going to play really hard. They have some specific things that they can do to kind of bog USA down. It'll be an interesting challenge, although I do believe Team USA will get through it. You know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? There's only like 2 days the whole year without a game. 2. With so much happening and so much action, that makes just about every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. It really couldn't be any easier or any simpler. Baseball, golf, UFC, there's something for every fan of every sport to bet on DraftKings. And I know it's early, but football season will be here before you know it. And the Kansas City Chiefs are currently the favorite to win the Super Bowl on DraftKings at plus 550. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. You know, whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. That's the reason the Toyota Camry has been America's best-selling sedan for the past 22 years. And the all-new Camry takes it to a new level. It comes equipped with a standard 225 horsepower engine and available sport-tuned suspension, providing power, speed, and agility. Think of the Camry as your typical swingman. And it's a good-looking car, too. The Camry racing on the 2025 NASCAR circuit was based on the racing-inspired design of the all-new Camry, with available features including two-tone midnight black metallic roof and rear spoiler and 19-inch alloy wheels. The interior is just as fly. The Camry has a modern interior design with available features like a leather-trimmed steering wheel and multi-stage heated and ventilated front seats. We're talking fundamentals and flash. You don't see that combo often on the court or on the road. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it has awesome fuel efficiency with up to an EPA estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. Our second quarterfinal game, Canada versus France. France came out with just incredibly stifling defense. By the way, I mentioned that defense number earlier in the half court with Team USA. France has been the second best half-court defense so far in FIBA. Germany's been the second best overall defense, and France has been the second best half-court defense. Victor Wembanyama was playing a high drop coverage and was getting a bunch of deflections early. At a certain point, Canada just straight up stopped bringing Wemby into ball screens because of the problems he was causing up at the level of the screen. Nick Batum did a really nice job on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's got the length to contest pull-up jump shots, and he was timing Shai's pull-up really well. Shai, obviously, still one of the best players in the world, found a way to get his points. I think he had like 27 or 29 or something like that. But I thought Batum defended him pretty well. Overall, Canada just came out guns blazing on the defensive end of the floor. And then on the offensive end of the floor, they just played through the post. And Canada was switching screens. And so like they would run action and get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander switched on to Guerschon Yabusele and just throw it down into him on the block. And then from there, like he would just kind of bully his way to the basket. He bullied his way right to the front of the rim on Shai for a layup. They were passing really well out of the post, both Victor Wembanyama and Guerschon Yabusele. The first bucket of the game, Wemby on the left block, just backing down and dragged I want to say Dwight Powell was guarding Yabusele, dragged Dwight Powell into the lane, and then Yabusele was wide open on the right wing, and Wemby just hit him with a beautiful pass, knocks down the three. Yabusele was, I believe it was Shai, was bullying Shai another time, drew in a second defender, really nice drop-off pass to Isaiah Cordinier, and he ended up getting a little dunk on the baseline. Then Victor Wembanyama did the same thing, off the left block, catching, posting. Isaiah Cordinier just cuts really hard off of the slot. Wemby hits him, he draws a foul. That was like a big part of what's made France's offense work despite having limited perimeter initiators is a lot of action through Wembanyama, allowing him to function as a passer. And then obviously Yabusele has been able to bully some of Canada's guards as well. Isaiah Cordinier was huge early in this game. I talked about him cutting off of post-ups and getting a dunk and then a foul. He also hit two like off-the-dribble transition pull-up threes that were massive. That put France up 17-5 to start the game. And then from there, Canada was basically fighting uphill the rest of the way. And they kind of lingered in that 5 to 7 point range. But down the stretch, Evan Fournier, guy who only had one made field goal in the first three quarters, hits 3 shots in the final 4 minutes, hits a bomb 3 off the right wing, another Victor Wembanyama post up, another double team from one pass away, another nice pass from Victor, and Fournier hits that bomb. He had a floater. It was kind of a weird play. It was an offensive foul, but they counted the basket. He had a driving floater at one point. It's a huge shot. That was right after a big block from Victor Wembanyama, too. There was this play where Dillon Brooks was posting up on the like kind of left elbow extended area, and Victor just straight up abandoned his man as Dillon was turning and like straight up threw a double team at Dillon Brooks and then blocked him on a fadeaway. And that's kind of like that thing I talk about a lot on the show, like defensive playmaking, which is essentially like outside of the game plan, but seeing an opportunity and like trying to be aggressive. Like it's not like France is on the sideline like, hey, Victor, if Dylan Brooks takes a fadeaway, you should double team, because Dylan Brooks is not that good of a shooter. It's a shot you live with the results. But hey, like, yeah, if Victor just saw an opportunity. He was like, I don't think Dylan sees the floor right now, and I think I can block this shot. And he went for it and got a huge stop for them. And then they went down and scored. And then Evan Fournier hits another bomb three, this time on the left wing from like 35 feet. And now France is advancing to play Germany in the semifinals. Really impressed by Victor Wembanyama. I think he only had something like 7 points. Like he didn't have a high scoring night, but he was dominant in this game defensively and dominant as a passer. France is a team that, especially with the home court advantage piece and with how hard they play on defense, they can be pretty tough to hang with. And then Gobert had a hand injury, like a finger injury, but their coach said that they actually went away from Gobert and played Wemby at the 5 specifically for the matchup. And I thought that was really smart for the Canada matchup in particular, especially with how good Canada is on the perimeter defensively. Like playing 2 bigs could really gum things up for you offensively. And like because Yabusele is just a little more skilled offensively, can catch and finish a lot better, can knock down 3-point shots. It just kind of gave them a more dynamic front court with those 2 guys. I thought that was the right call. Last note from this game, Jamal Murray was legitimately awful. He had 7 points on 13 shots. He had 1 assist and 3 turnovers. That's not good when you have 13 shot attempts and 3 turnovers and it generates literally 9 points. Like that's just not going to get it done. He came out the gates like right when he checked into the game. He was over penetrating and then trying to throw these like cross body passes that French dudes were just shooting the gap and getting steals and running out in transition the other way. He can't get separation. He's not hitting his jump shot. He just looks slow and he looks out of shape, which, like I've been telling you guys, like some of the stuff I hear from the people that I trust who are Denver fans and who cover the Nuggets, like that's kind of the thing on Jamal right now is he kind of shows up to this kind of stuff out of shape and tries to play his way into shape, and it's really bitten him on the ass in this tournament here at the Olympics. So looks like the game's moving too fast for him. I'm not sure if it's conditioning. I'm not sure if it's an injury that we're not sure about or what's going on, but like I'd be just a little bit worried about Jamal Murray if I was a Nuggets fan. Hopefully the embarrassment from this tournament leads him to really hit the gym hard over the course of the next couple of months so that he can come into camp ready to rock and roll. Serbia, Australia. Australia came out red hot. They were hitting a ton of jumpers, especially from the mid-range. Both Patty Mills and Josh Giddey had all those like little pick and roll shots going, like the Giddey's floater. Patty Mills is like little, like kind of drifting short mid-range jump shots. And Australia went up by 24 points in the first half. They, for the game, got 1.22 points per jump shot, and Serbia only got 0.87. So that was kind of the big swing factor in this particular game, is just Serbia didn't shoot well and Australia shot super well. But Serbia slowly worked their way back into it. They really stepped up their defensive pressure on the perimeter. This is something I've been impressed with Serbia through this entire tournament and even into the exhibitions. Like for a team that doesn't have a lot of athleticism on the perimeter, they play really hard, and they actually can be pretty disruptive just with the level of intensity that they bring on the perimeter. Jokic stepped up his defensive pressure. He was really active in a high drop coverage. Instead of like dropping back and letting Giddey and Patty Mills get into the short range, he was up at the level, being active with his hands. That actually ended up leading into switches, which became a big deal in crunch time, which we'll get to in a minute. The other thing that really spearheaded the Serbia comeback was the offensive glass. They had 10 offensive rebounds in the second and third quarters while they were making the comeback. Just really aggressive to the rim. Guys just making extra efforts, tap out rebounds, that kind of stuff. Just buying extra possessions as they tried to generate chaos to get back in the game. They ended up cutting the lead to 60-59 with a couple of threes. And then the game really settled into like kind of a classic rock fight from there. It was tied at 78 after a Josh Giddey left corner 3. And then Josh Giddey foolishly just hacked down on Vasilije Micic on a 3-point shot towards the end of the shot clock. That puts Serbia up 81-78. Josh Giddey ends up hitting this like kind of crazy one-legged floating, rising jump shot on the left side of the floor that cuts it to 81-80. And then it turned into classic rock fight basketball where like neither team could get a bucket. Bogdanovic missed a mid-range shot. Micic missed a mid-range shot. On the other end, Giddey missed one of his floaters that he usually makes. Patty Mills missed a pretty tough shot from the mid-range, so it's kind of just like stuck in the mud. And then Nikola Jokic made a big play. It got a guard on a switch and hit him with a spin move, and that kind of forced Jock Landale to step up a little bit. And so he threw a really nice over-the-top pass to a baseline cutter, who I think was Vasilije Micic again. He ended up going 1 for 2 from the line, so Serbia was up 82-80. And then Patty Mills gets Nikola Jokic on a switch and hits. Jokic defended it really well, like straight up smothered him on like a step back 18-footer from the left elbow extended, and Patty just sunk the shot. It was a throwback Patty Mills night. You got a tip of the cap to him. He had 26 points in this one. That sent the game to OT, and then Australia came out really hot in OT. We're hitting shots, and they were actually up by 3 with about 2.5 minutes left after Josh Giddey hit another big step-back 3 over Jokic in a switch. And that's where Jokic really took over the game. From when Australia went up, I think they went up 90-87. And then Jokic just completely takes over the game. He gets a couple of huge stops on switches. He gets Giddey. Giddey had just hit a step back 3 on him, right? So this time he like pressed up a little bit and kind of shaded his right hand, because if he forces him to the left, Giddey always likes to get back to that right hand to finish because he really likes to go to the floater. So he kind of like shaded up on Giddey's left hand up high enough to contest the step back that forced Giddey to drive. He made a couple of really nice slides to beat him to the spot, and then when Giddey went back to his right hand on the left side of the rim, Jokic was able to easily block that shot. That actually led to a run out the other way and a foul. So Serbia cut it to 90-89. So basically like a 4-point swing on Nikola Jokic making a huge play on a switch. Then he gets another huge a stop, this time against Patty Mills. Gets switched out on Patty Mills, and this was where kind of FIBA rules took over. Patty actually beat Jokic off the dribble, got all the way to the rim, and had an easy layup, and it would have gone in, but the layup had some spin on it. It was coming around the rim. It was going to kind of toilet bowl its way into the basket. Jokic makes an extra effort, comes flying in, and swats the ball off the top of the rim. It's just kind of an unusual play that you're not used to seeing in the NBA, obviously, with the rules, but another huge play from Jokic to get a stop against Patty Mills. And then Jokic actually went down and turned it over. Patty Mills goes down. Jokic swipes it from Patty Mills again. So even though it was off of a Jokic mistake, 3 massive defensive plays from Nikola Jokic in a row. And then there was kind of like a little bit of a chaotic sequence, a little 2-man game on the left wing with Jokic that worked downhill, hit a baseline cutter. As the baseline cutter came around, Jokic relocated right to kind of the front of the rim. Baseline cutter dropped it off to Jokic. He hit his patented little left shoulder hook that he hits like 75% of the time. And that put Serbia up by 1. And then Giddey actually ended up getting Jokic on a switch again and wanted nothing to do with it. As soon as he got Jokic on the switch, he just picked up his dribble, passed out of it, and McVeigh ended up missing a baseline jump shot for Australia. And then Jokic just ices the game on the right block, patented Nikola Jokic left shoulder one leg fadeaway, or the somber shuffle as you guys know it, where he kind of fades over his left shoulder but then steps back and comes off, lifts his left knee up and just hits that little drifting jumper on the baseline. That puts Serbia up 3. Australia turned it over on the inbounds on the other end of the floor, and Australia is eliminated, and Serbia is advancing to the semifinals. Just Jokic, just classic best player in the world stuff there down the stretch of that game is really, really fun to watch as Serbia advances. And then the last game, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because I only caught the second half of it. But Greece was up by 5 at one point in the mid-third third quarter, and Franz Wagner really, really looked good down the stretch of this game. Super confident with his jump shot all of a sudden in the second half. He hasn't shot well in FIBA, but he hit a huge step back 3, hit a really nice right shoulder fadeaway, tough shots. He had another kind of spinning left shoulder hook on another drive on the left side. These were those little mid-range shots that he was missing in the Cavs series. And so between that and just how confident he looked hunting his jump shot, he got fouled on a step back 3 on the left wing where he confidently went into it, and the defender knew he felt good, so he was really out on it, and he ended up drawing a foul. I thought that was kind of encouraging, even in a very small sample size, just because of how poor of a shooting season Franz Wagner had last year and how poor he shot the ball in FIBA up until this particular game. And Germany defended Giannis really well. They built the wall. They got back on transition. They rotated to shooters, and they've looked really good in this tournament. Like I mentioned earlier, they have been the second best overall defense in the tournament behind USA. My predictions for the semifinals: Germany is a 4.5-point favorite over France. They're the better team, especially with their perimeter initiators like Franz Wagner and Dennis Schroeder are just a level above what you're going to get in terms of like Evan Fournier and Frank Ntilikina and those guys initiating offense for France. But then again, like the home court advantage thing and just how hard France plays on defense, I could see that game going either way. Germany is a 4.5-point favorite. I will pick Germany for now, but I could see that game going either way. And then, like I mentioned earlier, USA is a 17.5-point favorite against Serbia. Worth mentioning, both of the first two matchups between Serbia and the USA were pretty close for the first half. And then generally, they've played USA really close with Jokic on the floor. So look for Jokic to step up his minutes. Look for that to be a really physical and intense game. But Team USA, I expect to really put their foot to the pedal to the metal, and they're just playing really good basketball right now. So I think they'll end up getting it done, and I think we'll end up getting USA-Germany in the final. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting the show. We're going to be back on Thursday to cover the semifinals, and then again on Saturday to cover the final and to do a mailbag. And then don't forget, we start our player ranking stuff next week. I will see you guys then.